On March 8th, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Corbett proposed a budget that state higher education leaders say would be devastating for public universities and students in the state. The proposal calls for a $660 million cut to public universities. For Penn State and its students, the governor's proposal means a $182 million cut, or 52.3%, mostly taken from its education budget. This week, Penn State President Graham Spanier again traveled to Harrisburg to answer questions from the legislature about the university's funding needs, especially as it relates to students' education. Spanier, along with leaders from Temple and Lincoln universities, as well as the University of Pittsburgh, appeared before the House Appropriations Committee to discuss what a proposal of this nature will mean for higher education in the Commonwealth.
We repeat it over and over that we cannot put the burden of this cut principally on the backs of our students. Yet it's being repeated publicly that that's what we would do, is just stick it all to our students. We can't do that because they can't afford double-digit tuition increases. One of the principal reasons we're pleading with you to moderate the scope of this cut, or to not cut us at all, is because it closes the doors of access and opportunity at a time where we're trying to increase them.
It's my understanding that Penn State's overall budget is about $4 billion, $4 billion. So the cut that we're talking about is not a 50% cut to the $4 billion. It's about 4% or so of the overall budget. Is that correct in my mind?
Most of that overall budget you're referring to has nothing to do with our day-to-day educational program. The $800 million a year of research that we do, that is a special compartment. You can't use federal research funds to offset a cut in our educational budget. The educational budget has two sources of income: tuition and legislative appropriation.
I wondered if you might just address the issue of economic impact, the impact that your institutions have on the communities in which they exist.
An independent economic development study done a couple of years ago showed that Penn State was perhaps the single greatest contributor to the state's economy, a direct and indirect impact of over $17 billion a year.
This was Spanier's second appearance before the legislature to talk about the university's declining appropriation, most of which is used to offset tuition for Pennsylvania students. Last week, the Penn State president had the same discussion with members of the Senate, in which he told them that the cuts will not only affect tuition, but also will affect funding to the Hershey Medical Center, Penn State Cooperative Extension, and Penn State's extensive work with Pennsylvania's #1 industry, agriculture. After more than a decade of flat funding from the state and this latest proposal to cut funding by more than 50%, university leaders are hopeful that their voices on the issue will be heard, and that the impact of this proposed cut on higher education will be lessened by state legislators before a budget is passed by July 1st. For Penn State Public Information, I'm student reporter Brittany Boyer.